the idea is let women speak, not let Kelly J speak. So who else would like to speak? Come.
Okay, so my name's Bev, and I'm from St Neots. So during the second half of 2024, I was approached by two women who told me there was a man attending what was advertised as a women's walk. So I started attending the walks in November 2024 to see what was happening and find out what women thought. And I usually stay away from all women's groups, and so because I don't have any great expectations of walking around what me and my family call the half loop. It's not a very interesting walk, but actually I was really surprised, and I really enjoyed walking around, spending this hour just talking to women in a women's environment, just talking about day-to-day things. And I began to look forward to attending those walks. So I was aware when I started that men were welcome if they said they were women. But between November and May, I didn't see any men on those walks. The only one that men was invited to was in January, and it clearly said that women's walks would be, the men would be joining the women and be walking together. And I didn't go that week because it was different. So on the 16th of April, the Supreme Court ruled that Sex and the Equality Act meant biological sex, and that a gender recognition certificate did not erase a person's biological sex. On the 21st of April, a What the Trans protest was held in St Neots. And one of the speakers was a man with a trans identity who also happens to be a town councillor. Now he was present in 2023 when I queried the council allowing men in women's attire to use the women's toilet. So he knew then that men shouldn't be in the women's toilets. On the 26th of April, the same man put a long and misleading thread onto a local Facebook group about how unfair the Supreme Court ruling was. As part of his rant, he claimed that the ruling would destroy local men's sheds and health walk and talk groups, because the groups would be forced to include trans women and trans men presenting as their acquired gender. So by forcing a man's shed to accept a man who wore women's clothing, he reckoned that would destroy a man's shed. He then claimed this would make people uncomfortable and they would presumably leave. But why? Why is a man going to leave a man's shed because a man attends? So due to the election on the 1st of May, I chose not to respond to his posts, because obviously I was standing and I had my own pushback from locals. Until I read a post by a woman who also happens to be a councillor. She had chimed in informing readers that I was the most outspoken anti-trans person in St Neots, and that I was running for election, and that my leaflets that had been pushed through the door were scaring the children. Go figure. She herself believes that any man, even one with a beard, should be believed when he says he's a woman, because of his inner soul. His sex is irrelevant. You know, disbelieve what is in front of your own eyes. So on Sunday the 11th of May, I attended the Women's Walk as usual. And I was wearing a t-shirt that said, "Women are worthy of respect in a democratic society." Now the group takes photos every week and puts on Facebook, and for some reason this photo just made me seem quite prominent. And so on this 18th of May, I had a feeling that there were going to be men, or a man at least, on this walk. And I was walking there thinking, what am I going to do if he turns up? Anyway, as I approached the walk, I saw this person turn around and glare at me. Somebody had obviously said she's coming, and he turned around and glared at me. And I thought, well, now we find out. So I approached the organisers and I said, there are men on the walk today, but you didn't notify us that men were going to be here. He's transitioning. Transitioning to what? Well, you know.
Turn left, then turn
no,
left.
I don't know. He's a man. He will always be a man. So, I said this is billed as a women's walk.
I'm just coming.
When men joined in previously, you alerted us to that fact. Anyway, none of you will be surprised at the response that I got. The Equality Act isn't clear, and we're waiting for clarification. The man was called over to explain to me that I was wrong. He was transitioning. So during the conversation I was having with him, he took a step back and very performatively he went, "You're denying my existence. You're trying to unalive me." And I just said, "Grow up, you stupid man." But what I did learn from the women who did chime in to support his attendance, that I need to accept what I'm told. You just need to believe. One of his female friends said, because I said at this point that I wasn't going to be going on the walk if the man attended. His female friend said, "I am choosing to self-exclude. You don't need to do this. Just go along on the walk and ignore them." So ignore the walk that two men are there, and it will change the conversation that women are having between themselves. But as expected, the majority of women looked on and stayed silent. So as I walked away from the walk, I quickly realised my preferred route home would end up with me quickly being followed by the walking group. As I left and thought, shit, I looked behind me to see if they were going this way or if they'd gone the opposite way. And they were coming, so it meant I had to sort of quickly deviate my route. And I heard a woman laugh, because she knew that I'd had to change my route. I'd seen them come and had to change my route. This woman laughed. And needless to say, I was very angry on that day when this happened. But on the 26th of April, this man was aware that the Supreme Court has clarified what was already in the Equality Act. He knew that he shouldn't be going on these walks. Now, he didn't look like a woman. His friend told me last week that if I squinted from a long distance away, I would maybe mistake him for a woman. But I wasn't a long distance away, and I wasn't squinting. I never have been any time I've seen this bloke. He's always been in my face. So he'd written on social media that men wearing women's attire would make men uncomfortable if they attended a single-sex male activity. Yet he doesn't give a shit about women feeling uncomfortable when him, an obvious male, and his friend, who also looked very male-like, turn up in a space that's advertised as being for women. We can apparently suck up our discomfort, or fuck off. Sorry, children. But is it really the discomfort of males that prevent these men from going to a male event? Or is it that not being able to attend a women's event stops them from being validated? I did ask him if he was getting a bit of euphoria from it, but he didn't respond. I don't think he got it. And unfortunately, due to planned events, the first time I had to go back was last Sunday, and it was a little bit hostile. And I really thank the one woman who did come and speak to me. And I will be going again, but unfortunately not tomorrow. So in June, the man who uses women's toilets and attends women's groups was rewarded by his peers on the council. Because I did write to the council afterwards. I couldn't complain about him as a councillor, but I could ask him to do a welfare check. I said his mental health was a little bit unstable, given he's turned up at women's groups. Anyway, a week later, guess what? The councillor rewarded him. He is now deputy mayor.
Oh, God.
And a bloke took great pleasure last week in coming up to me, the one who thinks he looks like a woman if I look at him from a distance. He took great pleasure in telling me that next year he will be mayor. So women need to start recognising that your silence isn't taken as fear, it's taken as compliance. And women are going to cheer on and accept. Women's cheering on and accepting these men is another opportunity to push at boundaries and breach safeguarding measures. And the longer we take it to draw a line, the harder it's going to become to push that line back or reinsert women's boundaries. So women, you best start opening your mouths and start talking, because otherwise you're going to lose every right that you think you've got by pretending that you don't know that a man is a man.